All right, so today we're going deep on this case, and it's pretty disturbing. David Meerhofer, one of the first serial killers, like, recognized in America. You've
Yeah,
probably heard the name, right?
right.
Montana, a bunch of victims. Really awful stuff. But what we're going to do a little differently on this deep dive is we're not just going to go over, all the crimes and stuff. We're going to look at how Meerhofer's case actually changed criminal investigation.
Yeah, it's really kind of the beginning of how we do criminal profiling today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, back then it was really experimental, almost like, something that law enforcement didn't even really do. But after Meyerhofer, it all changed.
Hmm. So, okay, picture this, right? Small town Montana, 1949. That's when David Meerhofer is born. Quiet kid, kind of like almost invisible,
Yeah.
melancholy, bullied, the kind of person that just fades into the background. Like, you'd never guess he would become, well, a monster.
And that's exactly what makes this case so interesting. It makes you think, like, how well can you ever know anyone?
Right. Yeah.
Here's this guy, totally normal, seemingly, and then, boom, commits his first murder at 18.
Wait, first,
Uh-huh.
I thought this all started in 73.
Oh, yeah, this is where the timeline gets kind of crazy. In 67, this 13-year-old kid, Bernard Pullman, they find him shot to death on a bridge. Back then, they thought it was an accident. Nobody suspected anything.
Wow.
Years later, after Marhofer confesses to everything, that's when they realize he was already killing people, way before anybody even thought he could do something like that.
Okay, hold on. So he kills this kid and then just, like, goes on with his life.
Well, not exactly. He gets drafted to the Army in 68, serves in Vietnam, in the Marine Corps, actually, earns commendations, hard to believe, right? Decorated soldier with this, like, hidden dark side.
It's crazy, like a split personality or something. One side's a hero, the other a monster. Do you think maybe, I don't know, being in the military, did that have something to do with it?
That's a good question. Criminologists still debate that. Could there be a connection between his military service and what he did later? Or was he just really good at keeping those two parts of himself separate, like shutting off one to function in the other? It's really hard to say, for sure. But here's what we do know. In 1973, everything changes.
Yeah.
That's when he kidnaps 7-year-old Susan Yeager, and the facade drops completely.
Yeah, that's when things get really scary, right? It's not just a murder anymore. It's like this whole nightmare for Susan's family.
Yeah, totally. He just terrorized them and made ransom calls, even talked directly to Susan's mother, Marietta.
Oh, man.
And it wasn't just about money. He was taunting them, giving them a false hope, a sick game. And if you listen to the recordings of those calls, it's chilling. Like, you can hear just how messed up he was.
I read somewhere that the investigators, they were shocked at how brazen he was. Like, not just kidnapping a little girl, but then to torture her family on top of that.
Right. Pure cruelty.
Yeah.
And, it's that cruelty, that boldness that actually ended up being his downfall. See, the FBI back then, they were just starting to play around with criminal profiling. And when they saw how the kidnapper was interacting with the Jaegers, they knew they had something unique.
So they basically made a psychological profile of the guy, right? Like a portrait based on how he was acting.
Exactly. And they nailed it. White male, probably mid-20s, military experience, knew the area, socially isolated. It's like they were reading his mind. But here's the thing. Having a profile is one thing. Proving it is another.
Yeah.
They needed evidence. And they knew it was Mayhofer, but he was smart. He was covering his tracks.
So super tense situation then. Investigators closing in, got this groundbreaking profile, but Meerhofer's slippery. Must have felt like they were running out of time.
Oh, yeah. Especially with Susan's life on the line. They interrogated him, even used sodium pentothal and polygraphs, tried everything, but he wouldn't break. Denied everything. The pressure was intense.
Like a high-stakes poker game. Except the stakes are, human lives.
Exactly. And then, this is crazy, Susan's mother, Marietta, she decides to take things into her own hands.
Really?
She starts confronting Meerhofer directly.
Wow.
Not just through the police, but face to face, demanding to know what happened to her daughter.
That's incredible, to confront the man you think kidnapped your child.
Marietta Yeager is amazing. Really, it's one of the most incredible people in this whole story. She wasn't going to just sit back and let the system fail her daughter. She met with Meerhofer, like, over and over. Each time was more intense than the last.
I can't even imagine what that must have been like for her, the emotional toll.
Right. All the while, Meerhofer's acting innocent.
Keeping up the act.
Until one phone call. They're talking, she's demanding answers, he's deflecting. Then he just loses it. In a fit of rage, he tells her she'll never see Susan alive again.
Oh, so he admitted it.
Not directly, but the way he said it, the desperation he'd snapped. And there's one more thing. In all the chaos, Marietta had called him by his name.
Ah, there it is, the missing piece.
Yeah, that slip-up, plus all the evidence they're gathering, it was enough to arrest him. And what they found when they searched his place, his car, well, it was way worse than they imagined.
What did they find?
Bloodied women's clothes, blood everywhere that he tried to clean up, and the worst part, in his refrigerator, a human hand and a few fingers.
Oh, God. That's chilling, like beyond messed up. So they've got him. They've got the proof. What happened next? Did he confess? I mean, can you imagine what was going through their minds? Building this profile, chasing this guy for so long, and then bam, it's proof that, yeah, he's a monster.
And don't forget, forensic science, it wasn't what it is today.
Right.
Finding body parts in a fridge that was shocking, even for the cops, really showed them what they were dealing with.
And it wasn't just Susan Yeager either. The stuff they found, it linked him to Sandra Dykman-Smalegan, too.
Right.
She was 19, disappeared from a basketball game earlier that year. 2 young lives, just gone.
It's awful. And, seeing all that evidence, that's when Meerhofer broke. Confessed to killing both of them. He said he tried to date Sandra, and when she turned him down, he kidnapped her. Tied her up, gagged her, she suffocated. Then he chopped up her body, burned the pieces at this abandoned ranch, Lockhart Place. Did the same thing with Susan.
It's just horrible. The planning, the brutality, no respect for human life at all. I don't get it.
And you got to remember, all this is happening during Vietnam. Lots of turmoil, assassinations, people scared, not sure what's coming next. And then Meerhofer's crimes, they just fed into that fear. Like nowhere was safe anymore.
So they have the confessions, they have the evidence. What happens next? Open and shut case, right?
Well, here's where it gets really weird. Meerhofer's facing the death penalty, right? And out of nowhere, he decides to make a deal.
A deal.
Yeah. He says, I'll confess to 2 more murders if you take the death penalty off the table. Admits to killing 12-year-old Michael Rainey in 1968. And finally, he confesses to killing Bernard Pullman, that 13-year-old boy from back in '67, remember? The one they thought died in an accident?
Hold on. He was carrying all that around all those years, those other murders, just waiting to use them to save himself.
Exactly. Scary to think he might have died with those secrets. And his confession about Michael Rainey, that's especially disturbing. He said he wanted to get a little kid. Just chilling. Gives you a glimpse into his mind.
Makes you wonder, are there other victims out there? Family who still don't know what happened?
It's a tough thought. But sadly, we'll never know the whole truth. Because hours after he confesses, they find him dead in his cell. Hanged himself with a towel.
So he got away with it in the end, left all this pain, all these unanswered questions, like a final, screw you to everyone.
It's a rough ending to an already terrible story, but even though Meerhofer's gone, his case is still important. It had a huge impact on how we do things in criminal justice.
Because of the profiling, right? Like
Yeah.
using psychology, behavior to find a killer.
Exactly. The FBI guys who worked this case, they were like pioneers using this brand new method, and they got it right before they even knew his name. People doubted them, didn't believe it would work, but they were right. And after this, profiling took off, became a real tool.
So this guy, nobody from Montana, changes how we catch criminals forever. Kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, weird how things work out. But from all that darkness came something good, something that's helped catch who knows how many other bad guys.
But it does make you think, right? Is profiling okay? Can it be used against people unfairly?
Those are good questions. It's a powerful tool, so yeah, there's always a chance it could be misused. But in Meerhofer's case, profiling worked. No doubt about it.
And it wasn't just the profiling, right? Susan's mother, Marietta, her determination to find out what happened, that played a big part too.
Oh yeah, totally. She's amazing. So brave, never gave up. She became a voice for the victims, a real symbol of strength.
And she didn't stop there. She wrote a book about it all, The Lost Child. Shared her story, her pain, how she healed.
Really powerful. Shows how strong people can be. She didn't let the grief destroy her. She turned it into something good, something that could help others.
Like, even when things are really bad, there's still hope. You can still find compassion, forgiveness, even meaning in all the chaos.
Yeah, I think that's the real lesson here. It's easy to forget when you're dealing with something this dark, but it's true.
Yeah.
There are people out there fighting for justice, doing the right thing, helping others.
It's not just a story about a killer, it's about people fighting back, people like Marietta.
Right, she refused to be silenced, and because of that, she helped bring a monster to justice.
It's weird to think this guy from like nowhere, Montana, changed law enforcement forever.
Yeah, for sure.
Like throwing a rock in a pond. The ripples just keep going.
Meerhofer's case, it showed everyone, like, there's this whole other side to crime, and that we needed new ways to catch these guys. I mean, can you imagine trying to solve a case like this without profiling?
And I know, right? It's like he forced the cops to get smarter, to really understand, like, what makes a killer tick. But okay, here's what I keep thinking about. What if he had killed himself? Could they have gotten more out of him?
Maybe, yeah. More time, more questions. Maybe they could have figured out why. I mean, was there something else going on? Besides he admitted to, something in his past, Childhood trauma, who knows? It's like these cases, they always leave you wondering.
It's true. Like a puzzle with some pieces missing. We might never have the whole picture. But I guess we can still look at the pieces we do have, try to make sense of it, right?
Yeah, and that's where people like Marietta Yeager, they're so important. Her book, her story, it helps us understand not just what Merrimacher did, but how it affected everyone, the families, the whole community, a whole country trying to deal with this darkness.
It's a good reminder, these aren't just cases. They're about real people, real lives that got destroyed. And Marietta, she chose to face her pain, to actually forgive. I mean, that's incredible. It's like the opposite of everything Meerhofer stood for.
It really shows how strong people can be, how much hope there is, even after something awful like this.
It's like even when things are really, really bad, there's still goodness. There's still people who want justice, who want to heal.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
easy to forget that when you're talking about a monster like this.
I get it. It's heavy stuff.
But there are people out there fighting back, trying to make things better.
Exactly. And, Marietta, she refused to be silenced. And because of that, she helped bring a killer to justice. And she helped others to heal, too. It's a powerful story.
It is, and I think that's what makes this deep dive so important. Yeah, it's a story about a monster, but it's also a story about hope, about people being resilient, about fighting for what's right. And it reminds us that even when things seem really dark, there's always light somewhere. There's always something to learn, and there are always stories that need to be told.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So that's it for our look at the David Meerhofer case. I hope this gave you, I don't know, something to think about. Not just the bad stuff, but also the strength, the resilience, the fight for justice. And yeah, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.